The death penalty is a very harsh result of crime that should be prohibited in all U.S. states. I understand exactly how it feels to witness someone be intentionally put to death after seeing a few here and there on the news and also TV. Imagine yourself or someone close to you have to face capital punishment. Throughout the world, the death penalty has been one of the most controversial issues in the past century. Hello, my name is Shannon Adams, and I'm here to talk to you today about the history of death penalty, statistics and its effects on life, and lastly, opinionated statements. The death penalty dates all the way back to the 18th century. The death penalty, also referred to as capital punishment, is the execution or lethal injection of a person convicted of a capital offense. Introduction to death penalty states that the death penalty was initially incorporated by the king of Hammurabi of Babylon. It began with 25 different crimes. It was also associated with the Hittite code of Draconian. Back in ancient times, it could be considered punishments such as beating to death, burning alive, and many other very harmful punishments. I have a visual aid here of the most common method of the death penalty or capital punishment, which is lethal injection. Lethal injection is when basically the patient is strapped down to a bed and there are lethally injection with poison. Most of the states do it this way. I know Nevada uses the following. They first insert sodium thiopenol, which induces the patient's sleep, which makes them basically go to sleep. Second, they inject Pavilon, which stops the patient from breathing. Lastly, they inject potassium chloride, which arrests the heart, which basically makes the patient go into cardiac arrest, which basically kills the patient. And that is the lethal injection, which is the most common use of the death penalty here in the United States. I also have an aid that shows the most common ones back in the day, back in ancient times and years before the lethal injection came about. On the top is hanging. This started probably back in very ancient times. In the 18th century, this is one of the ones that started. They would basically hang them from a bar, a pole, anything. And basically death is instant from that. And that's hanging from the top. At the bottom, I have a picture of the electric chair, which some states still use the electric chair now, but the lethal injection is the more common one that is used, which basically a patient sits down in a chair and their torso, their legs, and their feet are strapped down, and their head is under a helmet that also has sodium chloride, which starts the sleep of the patient. And basically electrical charges are sent throughout the body, which sends them into cardiac arrest, just as a lethal injection, which basically kills them instantly. Now that you are aware of how the death penalty came about, I will explain to you many statistics that show how people are divided amongst whether they are for the death penalty or against the death penalty. Statistics show that the death penalty issues vary good and bad. Most research shows that it is much more expensive than life without parole, says the Los Angeles Times. They stated that California, one of the main participants, could save $90 million per year and $1 billion per year in 5 years by sentencing the criminal to permanent imprisonment and by simply shortening the trial process if plea is established. Writers of the Sacramento Bee feel that money spent on lethal injections could be used towards programs to better the community, such as education, public safety programs, drug rehab, etc. Citizens of LA feel that the fear of punishment is enough to dissuade people from taking extreme actions, but feel deterrence can be effective if practiced right. DeathPenaltyInfo.org states that when comparisons are made between states with the death penalty and states without the death penalty, the majority of death penalty states show murder rates higher than the non-death penalty states. Weird, right? The average of murder rates per 100,000 population in 1999 among death penalty states was 5.5, whereas the average of murder rates among non-death penalty states was only 3.6. I find that very weird. I have a visual aid that shows here the comparisons of states with the death penalty and states without the death penalty. On here is a simple bar chart that shows states with the death penalty have a higher murder rate and states without the death penalty have a low murder rate. which seems very weird and awkward. You would think that the states with the death penalty, which they are showing more consequences of killing someone, would have a lower murder rate. But actually, it's higher than the ones without. So basically, in a way, it's not deterring anything. You now understand the expenditures and causes and effects of the death penalty. It is a widely discussed issue. Therefore, there are countless numbers of opinions about the punishment. Author K. Silverstein has his pros and cons about the death penalty. He feels, in a way, it is beneficial to the family of the person that was offended, but also feels that it should be put to a stop. Author Alan Berlow doesn't disagree with the death penalty, neither does he agree with it. His opinion is mutual, just as mine. Well, in my opinion, I'm completely 100% against the death penalty. I feel that justice can be served in jail rather than putting someone to death. I'd rather the criminal go to jail and live out the rest of his or her life in torture and misery for killing someone in result of the crime they committed. In most cases, crimes aren't always figured out. Killing someone who has not yet been proven guilty of the crime is very cruel and unusual, and it has happened in a lot of cases before. I would hate for someone to lose their life knowing deep down that they did not commit the crime that they are being accused of. In conclusion, all resources and articles give plenty of factual information about punishment of the death penalty. Although we established that the death penalty is unfair and cruel, most of the public agree to keep the death penalty alive and enforce it more. Since it is harmful to the finances and the society of government, people are working towards more ways to eventually prevent the death penalty and possibly stop the issue completely. Thank you for your time.